know what is that one single question that got asked the most about remote collaboration? I'm going to tell you what that question is and why we need to stop asking that. A few years ago, I signed up for an event called the Global Virtual Design Sprint. I got assigned up with 6 different strangers, one challenge, and 5 days. We have 2 hours of online time together every day. And during the 2 hours of time, we would be writing a lot of notes alone, some discussions, and a lot of anonymous voting. After the 2 hours of online time, we also would be giving up some homework to do that we could do at our own time, at our own pace. It was a fascinating experience for me because by the end of day 5, we did not just had a solutions that the whole team was aligned on, but we actually had a realistic working prototype that we already got tested by real users and we got some data from. I had never imagined how remote collaboration could be so efficient. And even better was that the connection that we had during just those 5 days. We began with just 6 different strangers, and by the end of day 5, when we actually had to go apart, we were so connected and we felt sad that almost got teared. I had a few more similar experience after that, and I became to have this theory on my head that remote collaboration not just work, but it actually is more efficient than face-to-face collaboration. I just left the theory on my head and didn't do so much about it until last year. I got invited to an event to talk about how to build a remote team. And in the middle of that 15 minutes presentation, I suddenly got a message on a Zoom chat. It was from the host who actually invited me originally to the event. And the message goes like this: I absolutely hated all this remote stuff. I just wish that we can go back to the normal work very soon. It turns out it was a private message that accidentally got broadcast to the whole group. Regardless how awkward that moment was for me, I just found that message very intriguing. What does he really mean by normal work? All this remote work that I've been doing is just as normal as everything else that I do. And what kind of remote experience that he had that actually made him hate this stuff so much? So I decided to dive deeper to the backbone of the collaboration to find the different answers. What actually makes remote collaboration successful while others fail? And it turns out that the theory that I had in my head for a while, that how remote collaboration is more efficient than face-to-face, is not just a feeling that I had. It is actually rooted in psychology and biology studies. Hi, my name is Sandy Lam. I'm a product designer and also the lead of the Delight Design System in software at AG. I absolutely love my team because we are so truly connected. It just makes me feel like home. We are a distributed team, so we have been practicing remote collaboration pretty much forever. The job for a design system is basically to provide different solutions to our colleagues so they can do their job easier. And since we are there to provide solutions and for the complexities of the problems that we have in today's world, we pretty much rely on collaboration, creativity, and brainstorming is a must so that we can squeeze out that creative juice from our brain. Well, not only that doesn't quite sound ethical, but actually it also doesn't quite work. Very often it just turns into an ideation arena, but more like a boxing style between 2 people and the rest of the team just sitting there very quietly. One team member, particularly in my team, he very often sits super quiet and very still that multiple times I thought his video was frozen, or he just took a selfie and put it in the background and pretending he was there. I mean, you never know these days, right? So one day, we were about like 10-15 minutes in our rapid fire brainstorming session. This quiet teammate suddenly unmuted himself. He said that, I think these solutions could actually work. He continued, and he started sharing his screen. He was showing us a solution that he was working in the last 10-15 minutes. And his solution was not just great, it's so simple that he was able to create and made it work when we were basically busy shouting out our ideas in the last 10-15 minutes. What do you think this teammate that I have in common with people like Gandhi, Albert Einstein, Rosa Parks, and Bill Gates? The answer is all these people, they highly value and require think alone time. In psychology terms, they are introverts, which actually makes up to 30 to 50% of our population. It can be surprising to you because a lot of introverts like us, we pretend to be extrovert so we can survive in this extrovert ideal world. Susan Cain, she described it as more of the preference of stimulation. So when extrovert they go for a social outing, they gain energy from it, while introvert lose energies from it. And we need to have the time to recharge after that. But it doesn't mean that introverts aren't social. We just prefer smaller group of interaction and we prefer more meaningful connections. Of course, there's no pure introvert or extrovert. Just think of it as more like a spectrum. We can sit more close to one end or the other. But in general, introverts, we like to sit in problem space a bit longer. We like to work more slowly and more deliberately, and we prefer to listen than talk. Those are the powers of introverts that are actually required for remote collaboration to thrive. The most common mistake that I see in remote collaboration is when people try to mimic a lot of face-to-face collaboration and bring it in the virtual world. What happens is they unintentionally bring in the extrovert ideal, which means that we favor the most engaged people, aka the loudest person in the room. We prefer quicker decisions and we favor the one that who are more comfortable to shine in the group. When we look at the history of how all this group work concept became very popular, the internet, the crowdsourced publication like Wikipedia actually play a very significant role. The reason that online group work has been more effective in the first place is because online working is a form of solitude of its own. For us to actually thrive in remote collaboration, we need to work alone together. When we look at how Albert Einstein discovered the theory of relativity, how Steve Wozniak created the first Apple computer, how Philip Stark designed all these amazing iconic designs, all this stuff happened when they were alone. Group work, of course, has its value. It is the glue that actually bond us together. It's the thing that create a connection and trust together in our team. But in terms of like creativity, productivity, and innovation, we would do much better when we give the space to each other for individual thinking. And here are 4 things that I do regularly to embrace the power of introvert when designing remote collaboration. First one is use the alone technique and allow anonymous opinion. This is a technique that we use to intentionally free us from the peer pressure, which is essential for creativity. And overcoming the fear of looking stupid is actually a myth. Don't trust that. From a significant psychology study called the Ash experiment, they put a group of people together, but only one of them is a real tester, and everyone else are actors. The group was given a very, very simple test, and the tester, at first, he was able to give all the right answers. But when the actors around him began to shout out the wrong answers on purpose, he also started to conform. What is even more disturbing was in around 2005, Dr. Gregory Burns, he combined MRI brain test scan with a very similar experiment. He found that when we conform to a group opinion, it actually triggers the perception circuits in our brain, which means that we change our opinions not just to fit in, but the group opinions change the way that we see things. And when they test it with the tester, ask the tester to write out the answers instead of shouting it out loud, even though the actors around him are still reading out the wrong answer, but the pressure of conform actually reduced by 2/3. And that's why we like to use the no unknown technique and always allow anonymity to eliminate the peer pressure. Second thing, always embrace silence and create a space for quiet thinking. Super important. Reduce the online working time together and try to use more asynchronous time is a way to do it. And during the online time together, we should always give more breaks and also short pauses in between conversations. This is a way to create a space for reflection and learning. In the book Quiet by Susan Cain, She described a game called the number experiment, and which is done by the psychologist Joseph Newman. Imagine there are like 12 different numbers, and the participants had to learn which are the good number and which is the bad numbers. And after a few rounds, the people, especially the highly impulsive extroverts, they will still press the bad number button when they should have known better. But if we force the extroverts to actually pause, they will have been just do as well as the introvert in the game. What the study shows is that the longer we pause to process, the more likely we're going to learn from it. Okay, the third thing, understand that half of the people around us would prefer the peace of quiet, and they need to build trust before they even speak. Practice empathy towards different personalities and temperaments. So a quiet teammate may just be, at the time, processing some of the information that we gave him. So in the many articles, for example, one that was published in Fast Company titled as Making Virtual Meetings More Fair, they suggest that we should always keep track of the amount of time that we give to each participant to speak. And I disagree with that because virtual collaboration is not just about speaking. There are many different ways you can help them to contribute. For example, people can write, they can draw, they can act. And in my story about my quiet teammate, his way of contribution is just by doing it. In my opinions, how we can make virtual collaboration fair is to accept that all of us are unique. We should build more options so then everyone can contribute in a way that they prefer. Okay, number 4, super important, which is focus on meaningful connection. There's a quote, a very powerful but simple quote from an organizational designer, Peter Block, says, connection before content. Connection is the thing that actually makes collaboration resilient. In the Delight Design System team, there are a few things that we do to build a connection. We always embrace learning. For example, we have a monthly learning party that we group together for 2 hours. We watch some videos or read some articles together. And then we have a learning board where we connect all the learnings and share them together. We also like to attend virtual conference, which is super amazing, especially for introverts, because it allows us the freedom to come and go anytime and recharge. And at the same time, we are still connected and we are still sharing learning via the chat. Learning and growing together is very essential and effective way to cultivate meaningful connection. Also, in our team, we dedicate a very good amount of time to ask meaningful questions, to ask questions that actually matter, not just a simple like, how are you doing? I have this stack of cards called We Connect cards, and it has like 3 different colors. So purple means something self-reflective questions, blue means something deeper, and green is fun and light. And the team would choose the colors, and then I would just pick a card from the color, and then we will ask the question. We will spend like a good amount of time, like 10-15 minutes to answer that question. So a sample question is, what has been the highlight of a week so far? When we ask those questions, it actually is super amazing. We will start sharing a lot of different experience, a lot of different stories, even pictures, and we just learn a lot from each other. One of my teammates has a very amazing way to describe this experience. We sometimes have so much fun like child, but we always maintain as professional. I just love the way that she put it. So, okay, those are the 4 things that you could already take away to make your team thrive in remote collaboration. But I would like to challenge you on this. So from now on, instead of asking the most popular question, how we can engage participation better in remote collaboration, we should start asking the question, what can we do better to give people the space to be present and to be themselves? Just to wrap it up, I'm going to leave you with this quote from Simon Sinek. Authenticity is about imperfection. Authenticity is a very human quality. Great leaders don't see themselves as great. They see themselves as human. When you are authentic and you can say and do the things that you actually believe, people will start trusting you. And when you have a trusting team, connection will happen and collaboration will thrive, remote or not.